All week long on the Elias Macco Show, we're celebrating those that came to Montreal to study and then made it big. Of course, it was a few weeks back that the Quebec government announced that they were going to increase tuition for Canadian out-of-province students, and not in a small way, in a big way. Basically double the tuition from $9,000 to about $17,000 a year. With that in mind, we said, hey, let's highlight the benefits of our tuition rates and what happens when people from the rest of the country come to Quebec to study. Tannis Jensen joins us, did her master's in French to English translation at Concordia University. Tannis, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So tell me your story here. Tell me where you're from. Tell our listeners where you're from and your path to getting to Quebec.
Well, I'm from Langley, BC, so just outside Vancouver. And I actually did French immersion. That's how I learned French. So I started from kindergarten, did it all the way through, and I absolutely fell in love with the language. And then I did my undergrad in French, and that was where I discovered translation, decided that's what I wanted to do for a living. So I looked for a translation program to do after. I was basically looking between the University of Ottawa and Concordia because they both have really great programs. But in the end, I wanted to study in a Francophone environment. I figured I'd get more out of it, so I decided on Concordia.
This is a question we've been asking all our guests this week when we've been doing this segment, and that is, if you go back in time to the moment you had to decide, Concordia, Ottawa, and tuition rates in Quebec are double, what's the decision you make?
Yeah, I think unfortunately in that case I would have picked Ottawa because it wouldn't have been feasible for me at that time.
And since you studied here, tell our listeners about how you've made a life and how your connections to Quebec have persevered.
I didn't plan on staying when I came here. I thought maybe I'd move to Ontario after. I wasn't really sure, but I really just fell in love with the city. There's so much to do here. The people are so nice, so welcoming. I love how bilingual it is, how you can just kind of have a conversation that goes in between French and English. Like, it's so unique. I feel like you don't see that in a lot of places. And I really just wanted to make this my home because I love it so much.
So when you heard the news, when you heard that the Quebec government was going to make this sweeping change to out-of-province tuition rates for Canadians outside of Quebec, what was your reaction?
I was definitely sad to hear that, just because, like I said, I probably wouldn't have come here if that were the case at the time. And I think it's a shame because it's such a great province, and I wish more people could come here and discover it. But I think this is going to turn a lot of people off.
The government says one of their refrains over the last few weeks is that students like you were when you were a student are contributing to the anglicization of Quebec. They're bringing too much English to the province. What do you say to that?
I mean, I think a lot of people come here and do make an effort to speak French, to learn French. I mean, I already spoke French when I came here, but I've met a lot of people that came here and actually learned French when they got here. So yeah, I'm sure there are some people that come and go to McGill or Concordia and then leave after and maybe don't learn French. But I think a lot of people do make an effort.
And do you plan, is this home forever now? Is Montreal home forever?
I'm not 100% sure. It'll probably depend on job stuff more than anything. But I'd like to stay here if I can. I love Montreal so much.
And tell me, I don't know if you've when you were studying, were there others in your in a similar situation? Tell me about maybe any insight you can add on that front. When the people you went to university with, how many of them came from out of province, and if you believe it's beneficial to have cheaper tuition rates for out of province Canadian students.
Yeah, I think my program specifically, because there aren't a lot of translation programs in the country, so there were quite a lot of people from Ontario, less from out west, but there were people from Alberta, Manitoba. So yeah, there definitely were other people, and I've met a lot of other people in Montreal that did different programs here that came from out of province. So there definitely are a lot of people, I think, and it's a shame. Like, I think it's such a great city. I wish people could continue to come here.
If you could have a chat with, Pascal Derry, who's the Minister of Higher Education, and talk to her about this policy, what would you say to her?
I just ask if it can be reconsidered. I think it's a shame, and I think there's a lot of us that are coming here and speaking French. So I think a lot of the statements they're making aren't necessarily fair.
You embraced French. You are, you're someone that's, does translation, obviously completely bilingual, and you're from the west part of the country, from BC. Yeah, I hear a lot of Quebecers complain, right? That in the rest of Canada, there isn't a care for French, and that francophone minorities in the rest of Canada don't have the same things that the anglophone minority has here. I would love your perspective, coming from BC, now here, loving and embracing the French language. What's your take on bilingualism throughout the country?
I mean, I think it's definitely true that there aren't a lot of people out west that speak French, but I know the French immersion program, there's usually huge waiting lists to get into it. A lot of people actually don't get in because parents really want their kids to learn French, whether that's just for job opportunities or just because it's good for your brain to speak a second language. But I think there are a lot of people. I mean, I was quite connected to the Francophone community in BC. I went to a lot of events, and there are people that are speaking French there, even if they're not the majority. So I think it's vibrant, even if it's small.
Tannis, you're the third person on this week, and every single person we've had on so far has mentioned French immersion, studying French in high school, and how that was all part of the reasons why they ended up coming to Quebec. I find that so telling. Tannis, thanks so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
That's Tannis Jensen, who did her master's in French to English translation at Concordia University, now lives in Montreal.